This is DDL 143.
I hear
Good evening, Lance.
Evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Feels like it's forever since I saw you last.
Oh, it's been all of, 3 days? 2 days? 3, 2, something like that, yeah.
I tell you what, having Friday off is that blew my mind that day. Because come Saturday I was thinking, I'm back to work tomorrow.
Yeah, it's nice to have a long weekend every now and then, and it was a very nice long
It was
weekend.
a very nice long weekend, yeah, very busy.
Yeah.
Which started off with...
A trip to London.
Trip to London. Being so close to London as we are, comparatively close to London as we are, you don't tend to go into London to be a tourist very often, do we?
No, I mean, you've probably got more opportunity and you're closer than I am, but no. I get down once, maybe twice a year.
Well, we were talking about this over the weekend. This is going to be tricky because obviously the amount of conversations we've had over the weekend, we're still going to be going, oh, have we spoken about that on the podcast already? We were talking at the weekend about how whenever we end up in London, it tends to be around this time of year, around my birthday. We've been to museums and we've been to the O2.
Yeah, we went to celebration at Star Wars celebration at the XL, didn't we?
Yep, and it all tends to be around the same sort of year, same sort of time of year. It's that just coming out of being too damn cold to go anywhere to not quite too hot to go anywhere. So it's a nice little time. And the weather on Friday was okay. It's still a bit on the chilly side, wasn't it?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, when we initially met up at Blackfriars Station, weather was gorgeous. I was sort of leaning on the railings watching the world go by, and it was quite pleasant, but it sort of tailed off as the day went on, really, didn't it?
We'd intended to do our normal visit of going to some museum somewhere, grabbing a bite to eat, and then going up to St Paul's for Evensong, which supposedly would have been nice. But because it's been a while since we'd last met up, hadn't it?
I was thinking about this. I don't think we've met up in probably about 18 months, actually.
Yeah.
Or did you come to my house party? Did you come to my house party? The one.
I think the last time I saw you was when I came up to yours, but I don't think it was a party.
I think it might have been. I think it was the party the year before, though. So it's probably been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been about 18 months.
Yep. So yeah, we spent a bit of time catching up while walking along the South Bank. We walked all the way along the South Bank, crossed over Tower Bridge, looked at the ticket prices for the Tower Bridge experience and thought, yep, okay. All this while, the cake that was mentioned in the last episode, I was carrying the cake because we were on the wrong side of the river. So walked all the way along the river, crossed over Tower Bridge, and then we said, right, we'll just head back towards the pub, drop the cake off at the pub, and then come back to Tower Bridge and do that. It ended up taking us 2 hours to do the walk.
Yeah, about 2, probably even 2.5 actually, but yeah.
Yeah, so originally we thought we would just do a quick walk. The quick walk became stopping every now and again and having a chat. And yeah, so we got to the pub by 1 o'clock and then had a not so quick pint between each, not between us. And then, well, your part of the story comes up next, I guess.
It does, yeah. So I went outside for a cigarette and Darren had just shown me this, what's that app that is Prisma?
Prisma, yes.
Prisma, yeah. And I took this photo and made a Prisma shot out of it and put it up on Facebook and said, just another Friday afternoon in London. And a friend of mine messaged me on Facebook and said, what are you doing in London? So I explained that I'm here for a book signing, sort of meet the author type thing. And asked him if where he was and if he'd got a few minutes to come down and have a beer with us. So we ended up staying in the pub not going anywhere. And
on St Patrick's Day, nonetheless.
On St Patrick's Day, yeah. And my friend came over and sat and had a pint with us, or 5 or 6. Or
I think it was about 6.
6 or 7, something like that, yeah. But it was really cool because I haven't seen this guy in 25 years. And we went to the junior school together, and my first band was with him. We used to rehearse in his conservatory. And as we got older and the band fell apart and he went off to university, we sort of lost touch with each other. And I've only recently sort of got back in touch with him in Facebook, using Facebook. Yeah. And so to spend 6 or 7 hours or whatever it was, I think he left about 8 o'clock, and he got to us about 2 or 3 or something. So yeah, about 5 hours. It was just fantastic to catch up with him.
And so what did he play in the band?
He was at one point the singer and lead guitarist, rhythm guitarist. I was on the drums, and then some of the stuff we were playing, he was having trouble singing and playing and keeping the rhythms right and everything. So we got another singer who was this long-haired lazy guy called Doug.
Oh, right.
Which is...
And when was the last time you spoke to Doug?
Sunday, actually.
Oh, so you had a good chat with him about the meeting.
The fact that I've just met up with Saul, yeah. So that sort of, we go a long way back without sort of having had much to do with each other for a long time. But it was a really good chance meeting. And if you had, the thing I like about this, if you'd never not have shown me that Prisma app, probably wouldn't have posted anything on Facebook, which he wouldn't have seen and wouldn't have come over and sort of completely altered the plans for our day.
Well, and the other thing is, you may well have posted that you're in the pub, but that kind of a post wouldn't necessarily have shown up or caught somebody's eye.
No, they'd have just flicked straight by it, yeah.
Yeah, this is part of the whole sort of the skills of using social media. You use one of those Prisma pictures, and it's still quite an unusual thing to see, and they're quite striking a picture. So to have one of those pop up, you tend to get a lot more like Facebook likes and recognition when you post something up like that, rather than either straight text or some recycled meme. We then, of course, well, you met your friend, and it turns out that somebody that I used to work with about the same time that you and Sol were friends, somebody that I used to work with in the early 90s, now lives around the east part of London as well. And because I've seen him posting Facebook upon Facebook picture around the area, I messaged him and said, we seem to be having a bit of a gathering. Do you want to come over? And then Rob came down, and there's the 4 of us sat at the table, all putting the world to rights, as angry old men do.
Yeah.
I think we, certainly I had a pint or two of the Guinness.
Of the black stuff.
Because, it's traditional, you're supposed to. And the pub had actually run out of Guinness by the time that Scott Sigler turned up.
They'd run out of Guinness way before that, because Saul wanted one and he couldn't have one.
Well, the thing was, because when you have a Guinness, you can't just pump it out, and you have to let it stand and top it up and all that business. So there was quite a long queue for people who had paid for their drink, but they were just waiting for this one pump of Guinness. I mean, for the rest of the year now, they'll have too much Guinness. The one pump is one more than they actually need. But on March the 17th every year, it's like, we need to get another pump in again. So about 6:30, 6:45, I noticed a Kovacs, who is Scott Sigler's business partner, and what we had noticed was that how busy the pub was, because this is in like the city, which is where all the banks and all that are. there's not really much tourist stuff around where we were. So the pub was busy when we got there at lunchtime, and then throughout the afternoon it dropped off and went quiet. And then it got busy again around the time that everybody left work. And it was about then that Scott and A turned up, and they couldn't find space, and a table had been reserved, but it was not much more than sort of squeezing around this one table. And there was about, 15, 20 people turned up for it?
I'd say about 15, yeah.
So what we were doing was sort of alternating, spending time with our little group that we'd already started talking, and then going over and checking and joining in with the conversations with Scott and the other people who had come to see him.
It was quite interesting. I mean, the guy can talk.
Yes.
Just being sort of not the most sociable person in the world. It's sometimes sort of in a big situation like that, you sometimes wonder what you're going to talk about. You know, are there going to be any awkward silences? That wasn't really much of an issue, was it? Scott does not give you awkward silences.
No, he
He's
doesn't give you
just
silence,
firing
yeah.
things out. I mean, people were asking him questions, and he was sort of answering them in a very, very... I mean, you think I waffle. You know, you'd ask Scott the simplest question and he would go on for 10 minutes on this thing. And then as it come to the end of it, if somebody else within sort of a couple of seconds didn't ask another question, he'd be straight in asking one of us like a question.
Yeah.
And he really did manage. He's got the social side, you know, keeping the conversation flowing. He was really, really good and really, really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure what his history was before he was a writer, but certainly he comes across as a marketing stroke salesman kind of character.
I think he did a bit of sports journalism. I'm sure
that
I
wouldn't
read
surprise me.
I'm
That
sure I
wouldn't
read
surprise
that.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his business associate, there was the two of them stood sort of side by side with sort of people stood all around them, and it was just the two of them talking. And yeah, we would sort of get in questions when they took a breath, but that was about it. And yeah, we ended up, well, unfortunately the pub shut at 11 o'clock.
Oh, did they? Because I'd already left, hadn't I?
Yeah, but you don't expect pubs up in London to close at 11 o'clock, but this one, 11 o'clock, and they were ushering us out the doors.
If I'd have known they were going to shut at 11, I'd have stayed until 11.
Yeah, because I think you only left at like 10:30 or something there. It wasn't.
It was like, yeah, I mean, I caught the just gone, I think it was 10 to 11 train.
Right.
I caught. And yeah, I'm annoyed now. I'd have stayed.
What you mentioned about the view of Tower Bridge is fantastic, but you didn't take a picture.
No, because I was on the wrong side of the platform. I would have had to have walked across the... Mobile phones don't take good photos unless you're sort of really up close to the thing you're taking a picture of. If I'd have taken the photo that I could see with my eyes, you'd have seen the platform and the reflection in the window. But no, looking through, it was Blackfriars Station. It's quite a new station, and it's got sort of it's just basically a glass box. And sitting on my seat waiting for the train, I could see right across the river as it is on the bridge. And I was looking directly at Tower Bridge, and it was all lit up, and it looked absolutely spectacular.
Yeah. Well, I walked, because originally you thought I was going to walk up to meet you, but I ended up walking back from the pub all the way to Waterloo. And it was surprisingly busy all night. The train was busy. At one point it was standing room only.
Really?
Yeah. And then sort of getting home, and the queue, there was a queue for people for getting taxis, and this is sort of like 1:30 by now. And yeah, but I've not done that in a long time. I've not been up London and certainly not drunk that much in a long time.
I must admit, my daughter won't thank me for saying this, but it's a real shame that my daughter came down this weekend, because I would love to have stayed and love to have drunk a little bit more than I did, because that would have just sort of really made the whole day absolutely fantastic if I ended up drunkenly stumbling back to your house.
And, well, the next day, because it was a packed weekend.
It was.
The next day, I went back over to East London again, but a little bit further east, out to the O2, to the Star Wars, I've forgotten the name of it now. It's Star Wars Identities, that was it. Star Wars Identities exhibition. Yes. And it was different.
Right.
I don't think we've covered this on a previous podcast. Have we spoken about the secret cinema that we did? I don't think we have.
No, we haven't. No.
So that'll have to be for another show, because that would be an entire show on its own. Now, we've been to Secret Cinema Star Wars exhibition. I've been to Madame Tussauds Star Wars exhibition. Did you do that one?
I did, yeah.
And I've now been to this Identities. Now, the Madame Tussauds and this Star Wars Identities probably shared a lot of the same content, but rather than having them on mannequins, Madame Tussauds mannequins, these costumes were just on regular mannequins. So yes, they were the right gender, they were the right height, but that was about it. They weren't trying to make the costume look like Hayden Christensen. They were just different costumes on site. But the whole idea of Identities was that you wore a little wristband that had an NFC chip in it, right. And then you go up to the display and you push your wrist on the wristband, and it asks you about what's your character's name. You type in the name, you go around to the next bit, and you read up all about all the different breeds and the different races, and you put your wristband next to the race that you want to be. I chose Wookiee. And then they explain that how you turn out is partly nature, partly nurture, and it starts off going, well, to start with, there is sperm, and you're like, whoa, Star Wars. Well, no, we don't want egg and sperm, and no. Just go over that one, little Johnny. Don't worry about this. And they're explaining how certain traits like height and physique and so forth can be influenced by what your parents are like, and then you go on, and then they do like a little story, and it's one of these sort of finish your own adventure stories where, again, you've swiped your bracelet on, and then you play the little story, so it helps decide what your temperance is and whether you're going to be a good person or a bad person. And all the while they're sort of showing you the different influences to the films, how essentially Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker both start off very similar, both naive, both living on a dusty sand planet, and how choices that they make them sort of go different ends of the spectrum. And at the end of it, you then swipe your band, it prints up on the wall your character, and it tells you a little bit about your story. And they also email your story back to you. And I would say, by far, still, the Secret Cinema is the thing that it's going to be very difficult to top that ever with regards to like a Star Wars experience. This is definitely second, and then the Madame Tussauds thing comes in a poor third.
So Celebrations would have been an absolutely disastrous fourth then?
Celebrations wasn't really... they didn't try to involve you in the Star Wars universe. That was just like a shop. The only thing that I would be interested in now, well, not the only thing, but one of the things I would be interested in is like the Disney rides. I did go to the Disney ride a long time ago. But and then that was like a roller coaster, sort of not a roller coaster, an emulator, where they got the whole thing on jacks.
Oh, the simulator type.
Simulator sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And they'd got the droid at the front that was talking to you as it took off and flew through. But a modern version of that is what they've got in the theme parks nowadays. That I would like to go to, but that would still have to go. That would still have to be a lot to do better than the Secret Cinema, because the Secret Cinema had that sort of faux spaceship.
Yeah, I mean, when we were sitting we were supposedly in the Rebel transporter. In fact, they did it twice, didn't they?
Yeah.
When we first started off, we sat with and they put the big screens up and we could see the flight. And then they did it with a little sort of prison-y ship type thing, didn't they? We'll go into it in more detail.
Exactly.
Yeah, they did, but it wasn't sort of motion controlled, was it? So.
Yeah. But if you get a chance to go see it, I would still say as part of a day out in London, than going to go see the Star Wars Identities would be well worth doing.
That does explain now why, because you posted a photo of it on Facebook, that explains why there was a Wookiee up there with Rabe and the name underneath. Because I asked you the question at the time, didn't I? And that's the name of the character you had in Star Wars Galaxies. And
Exactly.
I thought, I recognise that.
Yeah.
So then I was unsure then whether you'd got it from, if the name was like an extended universe
thing.
name
Yeah.
or something you'd stolen, but obviously not. You'd put it in because of the interactivity of the thing that you'd gone to.
Exactly, yeah. It's just bare backwards.
Yes, yeah, I figured that one out on the day I saw that photo. All the time we played, I never figured that out.
There was a little niggle that really got to me. Whenever you mention Bounty Hunter, all they do is put the character in Mandalorian armour.
Right.
If you're a Star Wars fan, that means something. If not, skip to the next section. The Mandalorian armour is basically what Boba Fett wears, and that's what they then modify to make the first clone troopers, and they modify that even further to eventually become what the stormtroopers wear. But it is from the planet Mandalore. There are Mandalorian race of people who wear this uniform. It's not something that because you're a bounty hunter, you wear that uniform. Bounty hunters, probably don't wear a uniform because it kind of makes them a bit obvious. Oh, look, that's a bounty over there. Better run this way. The other thing is, when you look at some of the photographs, and you've got the cutout, haven't you, of Boba Fett?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, he's got this nice little braided bit of fur on his shoulder.
Yes.
Have a look next time, yeah?
Yeah.
It's actually a Wookiee pelt.
Yes, I knew that.
So it's not going to be something that a Wookiee is going to wear. Oh, look. Oh, yeah, cut that off myself. I did that. And when so much work has gone into an exhibition like that, for it to be spoilt by the fact that it's tiny little detail like that, the Star Wars Galaxies, and I think some of the other Star Wars games, have set a precedence that there is such a thing as Wookiee clothing, and there is Wookiee armour. So they could have used that rather than just jamming somebody into a Mandalorian set of armour, which didn't really work right.
Hi, this is Scott Sigler, author of the novels Infected and Contagious, and you are listening to Dumbed Down Life.
Well, if we're going to talk about what we did for the rest of the weekend, then Sunday, as I've said, my daughter came down and her stepfather came down as well. And we went to a board game meeting at local foot. It's the fourth one we've been to. And there seems to be a bit of a resurgence at the moment of board gaming in general. I don't know if you play board games at all?
I don't, no.
Not at all?
Not at all, no.
Oh, mate. Next time I come down or you come up, we're so playing some board games because it's not Monopoly anymore.
No, oh no.
It's not even sort of Cluedo or anything like that. The board games we play they're just awesome. And we went to this board games day. I got introduced to a couple of new games that I've never played before. And And I was doing a little bit of research, and it seems that board gaming itself is becoming hugely popular again. And most of it is down to the internet and social media.
That kind of, it almost sounds counterintuitive, because you'd think that the internet would encourage people to play online games rather than board games.
Yeah. Well, specifically YouTube. There's quite a few channels on YouTube of there's these things called Let's Play videos, where people will play mostly video games and video themselves playing these games, and sort of everybody having a laugh at how crap they are.
That sort of Twitch and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But there's channels on YouTube that are dedicated to doing pretty much the same thing, but in board games. And Will Wheaton's Tabletop is one sort of quite popular and famous example, and it's where I got back into board gaming through that. So we went along and played this game called House on Haunted... No, Betrayal at House... I keep wanting to put Haunted in there because it's a ghosty type game, but it isn't. It's Betrayal at House on the Hill. Okay. And it's just like nothing I've ever played before. You start off, it's a tile based, you build a house as you go along. So you're a group of investigators, and you're investigating this supposedly haunted house. And as you move forward, you reveal new tiles and build the house. So every single time you play it, it's a completely different house.
Yeah.
Now, at a certain point in the game, when you make a bad roll, the haunting starts, and one of the players in the game, actual physical players, becomes a betrayer, and they become the villain, and then the whole game flips, and they have to then achieve a certain objective, which pretty much, from what I gather, involves killing everybody else, and then you have to stop them. And it was just a phenomenal game. My daughter was playing, her stepdad was playing, my housemate was there, and a friend of mine that I've known for a while, his game, he was sort of showing us how to play it. And we were building up a narrative while we were playing the game. So as things happened, you almost made your own story up.
Yeah.
Completely not needed within the game. You could have played it without doing that. But it was just much more fun to sort of build this up. There was one scene where Chris's character fell through a hole in the upper floor, straight down into the mystical elevator in the basement. Fortunately, then able to give batteries to Marcus's character, who needed batteries because his torch had gone out. Having just done that, a zombie came in, bit him on the arm, turning him into a zombie, and without a second thought, Marcus then shoved a spear through his eye. So, it's like epic death scene, you know? And it's just a fantastic little game.
So do these, because I'm familiar with, although I've not played that many, but I'm familiar with D&D sort of games. Is this sort of a D&D light?
I kind of guess it is, yeah. It's sort of D&D in a box almost, yeah. And we've got 2 or 3 other games that are very, very similar, and they seem to be really popular at the moment. They're cooperative style games, which is always fun, because who hasn't had a massive family argument over a game of Monopoly?
Yeah.
You always get, there's
winners
always somebody,
and losers.
Yeah, and people get really, really annoyed, and other people sort of, it's just a nightmare. But these games, they're a lot more cooperative. There's Pandemic. There's one we play called the Undercity. There's another one, Zombicide. There's Last Night on Earth. They're all kind of horror based, but that's kind of the genre that we like. There's loads of other genres you can play, but they're all sort of very cooperative, where you're almost playing against the game, and it's so much more fun. And I was doing a little bit of looking up, and apparently sales of board games, and these include role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, cooperative board games, card games, because card games have changed a lot. Wargaming and all of that. In the last 12 months alone, sales are up 20% over the last from the year before, and they just keep rising and rising and rising. There's gaming cafes starting up, meetups, clubs, and that. There's weekly clubs you can go to. It just seems to be that I don't know. It can't be a reaction against video games, but there certainly seems to be a lot more.
Well, I think the other thing that's helping is these Kickstarter things, because a lot of those games that you mentioned, they are sort of where somebody's got an idea for a game, but how do you advertise it? How do you fund it? And then to put it out onto a Kickstarter and say, well, here's my idea for a game, I just need money to print the cards, and they take off and do much better that way. There is a convention up in the NEC in Birmingham. I think it's June or July this year.
Is there?
I shall get the details for that, because if you remember, we did an interview a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away about the Knights of the, well, not Knights, Pirates of the Burning Sea.
Oh yes. The multiplayer online massively MMO.
Yep.
I never know what I have to say.
And the person that we interviewed for that, she's actually coming over for the convention. And I looked at that and went, board games, yeah. But we'll see. Perhaps, I'm not even sure how much it costs to go to the event. If it's within budget and if it's something that appeals, we might end up going to that. So, although we record every week, and it's generally on a Monday, we don't always get the recording published and out there on a regular schedule. At least not yet. Once we've got all our technical things sorted out, then we might be able to say record on a Monday, released on a Wednesday. Don't take Wednesday. I didn't say Wednesday. That was just an example. So I'm never sure when this actually is going to be in your ear holes. However, if you are listening to this, and it won't be the 20th because that's today, if you are listening to this before March the 24th, Mr. Sigler will be in Paris on March 24th. We've got lots of Parisian listeners, so that's possible. March 25th, he will be in Leipzig, which I guess is Germany. March the 26th, he's in Berlin. And then March the 29th, by which time this almost certainly would have been published, he'll be back in Dublin. Hopefully in Dublin, it not being St Patrick's Day and it being Dublin, he'll actually get a chance to have a Guinness. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any comments, please leave them either below on YouTube or on Facebook.